Hello everybody, just demoing my navigational sensor lights, or you can call them collision lights. It's my little test platform here. You'll see a number of sensors. I have more than you would need. Obviously I'm testing and going to show you a whole bunch of different things with all these different sensors and lights. So you can set up multiple sensors, for instance, on the left-hand side here, in what I'm calling zones. So all these sensors, well, actually, two of these sensors are set up in one zone and one's in a different zone. So two of them will light up one light on the left-hand side. Similarly, in the front, I have two sensors. One of them's this one's operating that light. This one is actually a sensor to demonstrate using just one sensor. Actually, you can use one sensor for an entire ship if you wanted to, and just have it cover the entire ship. Probably for smaller ships, it would be useful. On the right side here, we have one sensor controlling these two lights. And the lights are just performing in different ways. You'll see that in a minute. And we have two sensors on the back. So, for example, let's say you had a ship extension and you wanted a sensor way in the back somewhere, you can do that. So let's get in this thing and show you how it works. And it's mostly meant for playing in first person, although it does very useful in third person as well because of just your perspective, view perspective in this game. So here we go. We're just going to go straight at this platform. Sensors could be set up for different ranges, which you'll also see. And when I get in range, there, that front sensor has been triggered. If I go a little further, one over there, or that one there, just over the right side of the panel, should trigger. Not sure what range I have set up for it right now, but it is for an all-around ship sensor. Let's just make sure we don't crash into anything. So you could obviously set up the ranges. That front one is set up for a 50 meters in front, the longest range you can set right now. But you can set them for very close range, which I believe this other sensor is. There it goes. The blue sensor just went off there. So it's set for very short range, just in front of the ship here. So there you go. It's set very, very close, so you could come in. You could use this kind of thing for docking maneuvers or what have you. And that's an all-around ship sensor, so you'll see as well. I'll demonstrate the right sensors. They go on immediately, and the two lights have just different function. The one light is set for flashing, as you can see. It's flashing there, and the other one to the right is just permanently on. So we'll move around here. Back sensors are set, I believe, for a longer range, and you can see both sensors are on there, and that lights up that light just to the left of my chair. And you'll notice that if I can get it to trigger just one sensor. So now the one sensor is triggering, the one on the left. This one here is triggering, which triggers that red light. And if I swing a little further, now the light goes out. So either one of those sensors will trigger that back light. Obviously when both are on, they'll both trigger. Let's swing around to the left side here. On the left side I have a little different setup. This is again similar to the right side, the front side setup, where you could come in real close. So the yellow light indicates you're within 50 meters. And now why did that backlight go on here? Ah, so the backlight picked up on big red back there on my back sensor. So the yellow light again is on the left. We'll pick up either of these two left-hand sensors, the one in the bottom left and to the right. The one in the left middle there is hooked to this secondary light right to the right of the yellow light, and that's set up for very close, so I should be able to. I'll do this in first person. We're just going to keep coming in. Again, you could think of this for docking or just whatever sort of arrangements you want to make with your sensors. So again, perspective, it looks like I'm going to crash right into there, but we're not. Okay, now that red light just went on there. And so it's set up to hit about that range. And as an example, let me turn on. If you turn on your sensor field ranges, you have to have these. Let's go with the left for now. Of course, I think I have to have this on. Okay, so now you're starting to see the range boxes. Let me move out a bit. So that left back sensor is a much larger range, or both those left sensors are on a large range. And I don't know if I did not turn on the other one, I guess. Let me see here. Okay, this one. So you'll see that sensor now. That sensor range is just a little off the thrusters. And you'll see how that so as soon as that box hits just a part of the ship there's a red sensor that goes on and off. And I'll show this on some actual ships rather than this test platform. And again, it's more meant to display in a first-person view on a larger ship. Obviously, works on small ships as well. Okay, so here I should mention I'm using the Phoenix Embassy from Phoenix Fleet Systems by Dark Lord, and a few ships from Tristavian Shipyards by Tristavius. So in this one, I'm showing this is one of Tristavian Shipyard's ships, a Dragonclaw Interceptor, I believe. Yeah. And on this guy, I just have one sensor set up. So this is a single sensor setup. If I can remember where I put the sensor. I remember now. I put it on the side of... so I need a timer block. That's a timer block there. Programming block. I knocked out a couple panels just underneath this thing because I didn't want to mess up the look all that much or at all. And it has a very, very low profile with landing gears tucked in that it uses to clamp on, so I didn't want to build below that. So I stuck a timer block there, programming block there. You need both, and there's a sensor, and I wanted it pointing forward. You don't really need to do that, but it's just easier to set up once you're setting up your zones or your distances. So I have this set up. Unfortunately, you can't set a sensor to be 0 meters. 1 is the minimum. It's kind of odd, but so I wanted it to be flat with the bottom of the ship, but I guess 1 meter below is not bad, and then a little bit evenly around the ship. So this could be good for just helping you land. Now this ship is hard to control for me because it's really maneuverable. So let's say you're coming into this landing pad, perhaps. And you want to come down onto it. Again, without using third person. You can lower yourself down slowly until the sensor triggers. Oh, I should show the sensor actually. You can't have a sensor in the cockpit, unfortunately, so what I did was I put a spotlight on top, and it lights up the cockpit when it goes off. So it's not ideal, but it works. You'll see how that happens in a second here. I'm just being real gentle on the thrust so that I don't crash down. For my light to go on. And there we go. So we're just almost on the platform. I'm going to swing right a bit. Looks like I'm not fully on it. And then we could touch it down. Ooh, hit the wrong key there. And landing gear are locked in place. And we're touched down there. So it wasn't a great landing, but you could set up additional sensors that can tell you whether you're hanging off the platform like that, or you could come up with anything elaborate you could think of. All right, let's move on to a larger ship. Here we have the Phoenix Pilatus Flak Frigate, again from just Avian Shipyards, and I believe what I set up on this is a sensor up front here. We have a sensor up front. I should show you actually how it's set up. I turn off detect players unless you want players to trigger your sensors. I don't care about running into players. You might. I turn all of these on. They're normally default off, and I keep all of the detect owner-friendly neutral enemy on because you don't want to slam into your own ships or enemy ships or whatever. I believe I put a... That may be the only sensor I have going here. Let me... Actually, I'm going to go into the ship on the other side because these ships are huge and I always get lost in them. But at least I know I came in this side, and if there's a door open, I'll know where I'm going. So on a bigger ship like this, already lost. You can set up lights in your engineering rooms, for example, or some of your maneuvering rooms. This is one of the engineering rooms, but I don't think I set up lights here. Alright, here we go. So this is one of the, not sure what Tristavius calls it. I always have to go to his diagrams. I think this is a navigation bridge. So I set up a couple lights here for this seat, which is your... So for example, actually I'm going to show that off later because that's on the right side of the ship. Well, I can do it now, I guess, if I can get this thing into the right position. So again, if you're playing in a first-person only sort of role, the role for this guy might be just to maneuver the ship into some sort of docking position. I believe that light on the left is for the front sensor, and this one is for a right sensor. Actually, if I swing over, it should probably trigger the right, or the front sensor. That's exactly what I was trying to trigger. So there are front sensors triggered, and that's because of that. Oops, wrong key, as usual. So we're gonna swing the front of the ship over a bit, so that front sensor should go off. There we go. So it went off right there, which is about right. And in fact, if I turn on the... Let me turn on the... So I have a sensor in the front right forward, and front left forward. And I'm just going to turn on the front and right so we can see their sensor ranges. So there's the ranges there, covering just the front of the ship. So now if this, as an example, of this navigator here wanted to move the ship forward until to try to line up an imaginary connector here to that connector on the base, he can do that. Keep hitting the wrong keys. So he's gonna move the ship forward until that right light. Oops, I'm probably using the wrong key, because forward is this way. Now that right light should have gone on. Oh, there it is. Okay. And then, again, like I say, you can have multiple lights set up in different configurations so that you can actually dock straight into that thing without even using an external view. Now I'm going to go up to the actual flight deck, I believe. Which is I believe up here. And I actually put the programming block here and the timer block there in whatever this room is. Looks like sort of a medical room or passenger room. So here's a main flight deck. We're going to stay in first person, have some lights out there. It's the best place I could figure out where to put them. If this chair, I guess you can move, you know, if you had a bigger, more room here, you could put a light inside here. Again, you can only mount these on certain blocks, as most people know. So there's a light there for forward, left side, and right side. And so if we shift the ship to the left, that right light should go out. And there we go. It just went out, and we'll take a look. You can see that range there is just outside. Okay, now we're going to move on to yet another ship in a different configuration of the sensors. So on this ship I had a forward sensor and then a right sensor, a right and left sensor. In this one I decided to split the front into a right front. This is the Avalon command carrier, again by Tristavian shipyards. I initially was trying to put a sensor in the middle here, but there's all sloped blocks which you can't place a sensor on. and I didn't want to mess up the ship, so I decided to split this sucker down into two halves, in the front anyway. So a sensor here and a sensor on that side. And let me turn the ranges on. Oops. So there's a sensor nav front right and a front left, and showing their coverage. So they're set up to shoot forward, and unfortunately again the range is only 50, I believe I have it on, which is a max, and I doubt if this ship is up to speed it can stop at 50 meters. But that was the idea, to as soon as the front sensor went off you can stop the ship. So let me get inside this sucker. Once again, if I can remember. Yeah, this is the way in. Although I remember coming in on the other side, so now I'm going to be lost, but I guess the ship is sort of symmetrical. See, actually. I want to get across the flight decks. Probably screwed already. Yeah, I'm screwed already. That's the door I normally came in. Ah, here we go. So just zoom in through the flight decks here. Set up some sensors, probably in engineering, or lights I should say. I believe that's here. Yes. So we have in engineering here, we have our timer block and our programming block, and two lights up there signifying the left and right. Let's let me get in here. I thought I saw the range for the right sensor. Can't see the sensor ranges because they're too far. They only come into view when you're close enough. So you can't see them from way back here. Okay, you know what? We will go up to the flight deck where we have a much better idea of what's going on, and we can come back down here. This is the flight deck up here. Yes, it is. Alright, so here I just have simple one light, right, forward left. And let's get in the seat here. Alright, well, let's try and see if we can trigger one of these lights. Without crashing into anything, that is. Just bringing the front of the ship down. A little bit of forward thrust. Ah, there we go. So we just triggered the right side there. And the left light is still off. So if I bring this sucker, if I keep turning it to the right here, I'm going to back up a little bit as well, because I'm not sure how close I am. It's possible that if I swing right, I'll knock into that frigate there. So these things move really slow, the size of these ships. Actually, let's do this and see where we are. Ah, okay, you have to be close enough to these sensors to trigger the... I guess it's 300 meters maybe before you can see them. So there it is. There's the right side triggering that. Just barely crossing the... just barely touching. Yeah, so if I move back a few more meters, you'll see that right light turn off. While I'm doing that, I'll swing to the right as well. I think I was clear, so I should be good. Again, you could set up way more sensors or more lights that will tell you how close you are to something. And there we go. The right light has gone off now. And I'm going to swing in a little bit forward. Just looking to trigger both lights. Okay, so there's our right light. And I'm just going to keep swinging over. Another idea I had with these sensors, and I may continue working on it if there's enough interest, is actually coloring the lights based on distance. And there we go, both lights are on now. So yeah, so having the lights actually indicate a distance. So let's say some range of light colors from green to red, where green is, beyond some range. And the light gets closer to red as the range gets smaller. Where, if it's red, you're going to impact something. There's a little more work involved there. I could do it in sort of an ugly way, where I continuously change the sensor ranges, but that's kind of ugly, and you wouldn't be able to have like your own setup of the sensors. They'd have to be actually in certain positions. So I'm not going to go with that method. I can think of another method that I may try, but it's quite a bit of work, I think. The other idea was to have zones that would actually, while I'm talking, I can run down to engineering and see the lights there. So you can have a right zone, for instance, that would trigger a right light. Is this the right engineering room? No, it's not even engineering. Oh, now I'm gonna forget how to get there already. I gotta go down and down and down. So for instance, you could have a zone set up for the right side that would trigger a general right light, but then with another indicator on the sensor, it would show the so there's the two lights in engineering, front right, front left. So you'd be able to set up for example, a right side zone that would trigger a general right light, but then specific sensors would trigger specific right side lights. So you can have a general right side light, which would mean any of your right side sensors are triggered, and then let's say 3 different lights, one for the front, middle, and back of the ship, that would trigger. I just wanted to show here again, we're in engineering. The right front light is lit there. The left is not. And we're going to get into one of these chairs. We're going to look at the camera out the front of the carrier. And we're going to rotate ourselves to the right. This is actually the camera on the left side. And I'm guessing it's triggered by now. So we're going to take a look at the light, and there we go. Light's triggered. I just noticed there's a camera up there, and it actually can see both those nav lights. So, if I take a look at this camera view, I can see that the right side light is lit and the left is not, so I'm now rotating the ship to the right until there. Now we have both lights lit, and now I'm reversing the ship. And let's see how long it takes for the lights to go out. Now the left one went out, but that might just be because of the angle I'm on. And there we go. The right one is out. So let's just move in a little bit again. These are the cameras on the front of the ship. And if I look at the engineering room, you can see they're both on. And now I'm going to reverse. Oops. Yep, reverse here. Both lights still on, but they should go off shortly. And the left one went off. And the right one's off. So it's a little interesting view there from the number of cameras. And perhaps that gives me an idea. Actually, you could set up a bank, just a room with a camera view and a million lights indicating a bunch of things. So that might be useful for something. Not sure.